Is it here?
Yep. Maybe you should come and talk, Elian. No, he left for a meeting.
Make sure if there's any question.
Anbu, good afternoon. I can see you're back. Chris is joining. Welcome. Good afternoon. I suppose this is Unais. Good afternoon, Unais. We shall be waiting a few more minutes to see if we have some guests joining. Otherwise, it'll be an Eichenhaus internal speech. which I'm not against with. I enjoy your company. So do we. Thank you, Joanna. So we'll have a challenge. Who will give the most daring question? Hi, Ahmed. Good afternoon. Jitesh, you should be on this side of the screen. Are you all in the cinema? Closed doors. Must be a party going on there. Shubangi, maybe we should move down there. So how will you entertain the Akenhouse team?
I don't know what questions.
Is Akanksha joining? Let's give it another 2 minutes. Someone had texted me willing to join, but she's not there yet. Another Lebanese, maybe a friend of Joanna. Tanya Tanum, I think. Tanya Tuma. Joanna, do you know Tanya Tuma? No. Shall we get started? Okay. So welcome everybody. We have our webinar edition number 5. Today is all about home automation or automation. And we have these series on a weekly basis, usually on a Thursday, but since I'm traveling tomorrow, we did an exception and made it on Wednesday today. And we look forward to continuing this series on a weekly basis. So today the topic is about automation. Let's get the presentation live. I have here Shubangi with me. Thank you, Shubangi, for setting this up. We will have footage that we can play with and put my face all over the internet. Careful, we might break it. So yeah, technology stands for automation and audiovisual. Today we will be focusing on automation. Obviously, all of you know that We are looking into residential solutions, but automation can be applied in many different properties, commercial as well, hospitality, corporate, F&B, etc. Let's move to the next slide. And the approach is in 4 phases for us, with different responsibilities sitting with different people. In the first phase, we are looking into the definition of the automation system for a particular client or for a particular project. The automation solutions that we provide are rather on a broad basis, and what that means is that we will be integrating a lot of different pieces of equipment into a one central control device called a processor or computer. From a user point of view, it's a switch. A simple button on the wall can be triggering a whole bunch of equipments to change and adjust to create the mood that the client will be willing to have in a specific time of the day. So that first phase is a long discussion with the sales and the design team, where we try to understand the requirements and the objectives of the client and the user. The client may be different from the user. The client is the one that will be looking at contracting us on a particular project, and the user will be the person that will actually be pressing on these buttons. And those may not be the same person. So it's important for us to know the profile of the user so that we can bring eventually the interface into an intuitive way of work, a way of approaching the system. This phase is typically free. You can discuss as much as you like. There's no early enough. Typically, this phase needs to come to an end whenever the project approaches the MEP stage. When the layout of the cabling and the conduits need to be approved, this is where you will need, the client will need a layout from us, a drawing from us. And from that point, we need to mobilize a team, a technical team, to get that drawing and the BOQ and the different hardware pieces that will be required for a specific project. So the definition ends at a contract. It's a document that states the terms and conditions and all the pieces of hardware that will need to be procured, with all the specifications based on the brief that we have received from the client. Obviously, it's a dynamic document because at that stage there's no procurement yet. It's an assumption, an estimation based on the discussions of what we have understood as being the objectives and the requirements from the client. Once we are contracted, we will mobilize a team. First starts with the design team that will then change the drawings from concept to detail and preparing for the procurement. The project manager will be assigned, and that person will then make sure that things happen in the right sequence. Obviously, in a project like this, there's things that can't happen before other things have been completed. And this is very important so that the right parties, the right companies will know what to do by when, so that the process is going smooth. The third phase is the delivery. So this is post handover, and this is the most important phase for us. This is what we call our product. Once everything is installed and works, that is not an automation system just yet. That is a device that works, that can control the lights, the AC, the curtains, the TV screens, the speakers, parking bays, elevators, coffee machines, fridges, whatever it is, electrical or electronical. However, at that stage, we don't know yet how the user would want the property to work for them at different parts of the day. So this is where the user moves into the property, starts using the system, and then we'll have a lot of different questions and comments and desires to change things so that whenever they press a button somewhere, there's a bunch of things that will happen to make the property move into an ambience that is desired. Very often, this phase is not considered, reduced, diminished, because people want to move on to the next project. And it's unfortunate because this is the most important phase. When people say that they've had an automation system in one of their properties somewhere and that they have been unhappy with it, that they say that it's been a complicated system and they would prefer to go back to an analog, hardcore physical switch, this is where the delivery has actually failed. The system works, but the interface, the switches are too complicated to use. And often we can see on other projects where people put little post-it notes next to the button to remind people what would happen if they were to press this button. So that's a failed attempt to automation. And it's unfortunate because this is driving a lot of misunderstandings and a lot of miscommunications about automation, where people don't like it because it's complicated to use. And it's a pity because that's the last mile of the setup of a system. The fourth phase is maintenance. It's in operation, and here very often when machines have been set up properly, they work. They will work continuously. Sometimes some hardware can break and they need to be replaced, but most of the time things just continue to work. However, sometimes our users or our clients would sleep better at night when they have an annual maintenance contract. They have paid something, they can rely on the service, they can rely on the fact that they can call somebody to help them with whatever that is. So, automation often is considered as a lighting control system, but that is very far from the truth. Okay, little pause. Tanya is here and not able to join. Is there a link? Yes, there is a link. Can you give me your email address? Couple of minutes, people.
It's on our Instagram bio.
She has this.
And she needs to go to her address. There will be a button where she can just click on join room.
On her email where she received this. When I put join, nothing happens. Can we forward another link? So automation is a lot more than just lighting control. Automation will integrate a lot of different electrical or electronical components and devices from a property. On this image, what do we see? We see some chairs and a dining table with a light. On the left, we see the kitchen where you have different appliances that can be integrated as well. Right above, we see a lounge with a TV screen, that's media, with the speakers being sound. On the left, you see a bedroom with a round Bang & Olufsen speaker, and you have some curtains, shades. The room above, upstairs, there's a terrace, and next to it, you see a thermometer, so we can manage the heater or the air conditioning. There's a shade on the right. There's a motion sensor in the staircase. Whenever you are approaching a staircase, some lights can be on. And in the middle, you see some devices that is the processor. At the bottom, you see an entrance door with an access panel. So if you think of it, oh, and above the car, you see a little camera for CCTV or security purposes. So anything electrical or electronical is triggered by a digital button. If you have a digital button, that means that we can bring it back to that central processor, the central computer. And from that computer, anything linked to that computer can be triggered. So the switches in and on themselves don't do anything. A switch, when you touch the button, will only send a signal to the processor that says the button was pressed. That's it. Then inside the computer, there's a program. And the program is triggered by that button that was pressed, signaling the computer, hey, wake up, the button was pressed. What do we do? The computer knows where that button is and then might check some data points. The computer will then automatically check what's the temperature in that room where the button was pressed. It could check the temperature outside. It could check the quantity of light outside with a sensor. Is it sunny outside? Is it cloudy outside? Is it raining? Are the windows wet? Can check the time as well, can check the weather forecast. The computer can connect to a weather forecast website and check what's the forecast like. When is the sunset happening that day? And based on all that information, it will then dim the light. It may open or close the curtains. It may raise or decrease the temperature of that room or the property. It can start a fountain. It can start some colored light in a swimming pool. It can start a coffee machine, either warm it up or prepare a coffee. If it is in the morning, for example, and you're in your bedroom and you say that you want your kitchen to be ready and prepared, your coffee machine could get warmed up. The lights will turn on, the shade will open, maybe some music will play, etc. So the keypad is what we call the interface. It's that level between the user and the processor or the computer. And that switch can be as simple as a physical button, or can be like in the image here, four different buttons. And these buttons can be either touch on a glass panel or a physical button that moves. And you can have more. If you have more on the same size keypad, then the buttons will become smaller and smaller. The buttons can have a name on it or not. In this case, you have little icons on them showing what the light is, where the shades, where is the temperature, or this button all on, all off. All on, all off means that not only the lights will turn on, but the shades will move, the AC might start, the music might start, etc. The next type of switch is a touch panel. A touch panel is like a little tablet, and the tablet can have different screens. So that allows to multiply the number of buttons that you may have on the same sized device. Because we can have different screens that will show different kinds of controls. On the touch panel that you see on the screen, we have on the left different areas of the property: living room, dining, master bedroom, bathroom. And on the right side, you have the content of what it is you want to control. On the bottom, you have different icons that shows lights, thermometer, shades, music, media, which is TV screens, doors, security, phones as well. If you were to press phone, you would have a keypad and numbers, and you can dial any number you like inside the house or external. That device will have a little mic and a little speaker, and you could have a phone conversation with anybody of your preference. In this case, we pressed music, and on the screen will then come what content is playing, the image of the disc that was selected. You can have volume up, volume down, or mute. And you can have these arrows speeding things up or moving to the next song. So a touch panel is very interesting because you can do a lot with it. You can have a lot of feedback as well. You can get access to the weather forecast. You can know the temperature inside, outside the house. You can have your program. We can have a lot of information that would be displayed on that display. However, it comes at a cost, and so a touch panel will cost a lot more than a keypad, and depending on the number of buttons, will cost more than if you had a single button. So this is where these elements need to be considered. So at the end of the day, when you look at the overall budget, the budget is meeting your expectations, as in the client expectations. Mobile device means one of these touch panels that you can take with you. In this case, it's a tablet, specifically an iPad from Apple, and it's inside a sleeve. And that white sleeve is then attached onto the wall thanks to a magnet. And that magnet also serves as a charging station. The obvious problem with mobile devices is that they will discharge over time. So if someone forgets to charge it, the device will not operate anymore. And if you wanted to control something, you'll first need to recharge. And what is not more frustrating to see a little battery with saying they need a minimum charge before it can turn on. So that is the consequence of having a mobile device. And the advantage is that you can stick it on the wall. There is a fixed location where it should be stored. It's not just randomly on a coffee table, and sometimes might be sitting under the coffee table, and you may be looking long to find the device. Again, it's very handy because you can bring that control down to the sofa where you would be sitting. Or if you're in your bed, you have it in your bed and you can control the content of your TV. You can lock the doors, turn off all the lights, put on the security system, or again, calling anybody from wherever you are. So there's obviously some good advantages of that device. The big difference between a tablet and a touch panel is that the touch panel is always on the wall, attached on the wall, constant power. Oh, here we go. So you have touch panel, mobile devices, keypads, and traditional switches. A touch panel has constant power. A mobile device is battery powered, so it needs to be recharged sometimes. And the keypads and traditional switches also have constant power. Touch panels are constantly wired, so the connection is always available. It's a very reliable connection. The mobile device will depend on your Wi-Fi. So if you have a problem with your Wi-Fi, you will have a problem with your connectivity. Again, same for the keypad, it's always reliable. And traditional switches is direct power control. So that will actually turn off a device and it might turn it back on, which for some of these devices is a problem. Even in lights, if you had a metal halide light source, if by any chance in a property you had that, it needs to warm up. So you don't want to turn it off, because if you turn it off, it will take a while to cool down and turn back on. Obviously, for any electronical device or media, this is the same thing. If you turn a device fully off, it will take a while to come back to operations. A touch panel, always ready to work. A mobile device, it's an app. So the app needs to be launched before it can be operated. Keypad is always ready to go, and the traditional race is always ready to go as well. Touch panel, unlimited pages. It may become at some point a bit complicated, but you have unlimited different buttons that you can create. Mobile device is the same. Keypads is limited to the number of buttons that you have, and then what you do with those buttons. You can press once, you can double press, or you can long press. Again, that might become a little complicated because you might forget what a double press may do. But these functions do exist. For example, a all-off button is quite handy because the same button, if you had one button, if you press it long, then everything will shut down. The shades will come down, the thermostat may go up to 30 degrees, the lights will shut down, maybe some security systems will be turned on after 5 minutes and something like that. Traditional switch is also limited to 1 or 2 buttons, and they will only do one thing, which is power off. Touch panel, multifunctional. You can again have a connectivity to the internet, so we can have actually information or feedback from what the sensors are reading. What is the temperature, for example? What is playing on the speaker, etc. Mobile device is the same. Keypad is the same. And traditional switch is limited to power only, as I just mentioned. Lighting control has and always play a very important role in getting that ambience or the mood that you want for a specific moment. If you think of a dining table, at a dining table, many different things can happen. Think of the middle of the afternoon, it's homework time, or you want to work, you want to have enough light to read your documents. But come the evening, and then you have dinner, maybe only with your partner, and then you want a very romantic and atmosphere without taking the time to light up a lot of candles. So your light can be dimmed to the mood that you want to create. And here, the question is about the light points that you have can be organized in different circuits or can be organized independently. If the light fittings have, for example, DALI, then we as a controller can very specifically define what light is on, what light point is off, and at what dimming level. So here, from a control point of view, our options are infinite in creating those moods that are specific and desired for a very specific activity. You can make a lot of drama, you can make a lot of contrast by choosing which light point is on and which one is off. Here we have different ways to control light. This is obviously a mobile phone. You have your main page. Icon house is then a location with your icons at the bottom. If you go to room specific, the names next to it are the name of those rooms. If you go inside a room, you can go all the way to specific light points that you can control. Obviously, this is quite cumbersome. This will take time to turn these light points on and off, as opposed to have moods where different light points will adjust to create that ambience that you want to create. Nighttime, daytime, dinner, romantic, whatever name you want to create to give to those scenes. Climate control is thermostats, and here there's quite a bit to be said. Traditionally, the reading of the temperature is inside the thermostat, but the location of the thermostat can then trigger a specific temperature. Think of often the thermostat is next to the door, but the temperature near the door is going to be very different to the temperature near the window. If you place the thermostat next to the window, the reading will be probably high and the room will be very cold, especially near the door. So a better reading of the temperature of the room is to have different sensors at different locations, and then a calculation is made to have an average reading of the temperature. And then the AC will then function to increase or decrease the temperature. Obviously, the advantage of having climate control is that it can be dynamic throughout the day. When there's nobody in the property, why cool? If there's people in the property, you can then get it to the right temperature. Nighttime can have a different temperature than daytime, and that will ultimately save quite a bit on your energy bill. You always have override. Here we have the same sequence. Icon house as a general property, specific rooms, my office, and within my office, I can set a specific temperature that I want at a specific time. Obviously, automatically, at given hours of the day, that adjustment will then go back to what was the automatic schedule. Curtain control, again, the same as with the AC, they can be automatic. Something that a lot of people don't think about, especially in towers like many of us live in Dubai. When the sun rises, at some point it's going to be horizontal to your window, and that is very glaring. And so often people will then close the curtains or close the sheer in order to reduce that glare. But most people will then forget or not make the effort to go and reopen the windows and enjoy the view like you have on this picture. Very often I will see offices or properties where the curtains are closed all the time because of that glare, and they will not reopen at given nighttime, missing or skipping sunset altogether and not have this view of these buildings that are lit. Equally, for specific moments of the day, the sheer, for privacy reasons, could close automatically because at past a certain time, for bedrooms, for example, the property will know that you will go to your bedroom and get ready for nighttime. And then it's quite nice to not having to first close the curtains before you get dressed for nighttime. So all of these scenes, again, for window treatments can be set automatically because you know your habits, your schedules. At different times of the day, you will prefer to have your curtains open or closed. Another feature that is extremely nice is the morning wake up scene. You can set up a specific time of the morning where you want to be woken up, and your curtains could open super slowly to get a little bit of light coming in through your windows, very slowly, more and more, that will bring you to an awakening feeling. So it's a gentle wake up process from being fully asleep to being fully awake. And who knows, you may even send a signal to someone to say, I would like to have a cup of tea or have a cup of coffee. We've been joking about this because the next step would be to have a robot, and that robot can actually bring you that coffee or somebody else of your choice. Here again, curtain controls, depending on how you want to control it, you can have either moods or percentages of openness of the window. Audio, same topic. Once again, we're talking about lights, AC, curtains in daylight control to give you that mood. Well, audio will play an equal important role in this. And audio is background sound. Obviously, people will have their preferred kinds of music for preferred kinds of moods or ambiances. So that can be set up automatically. You know that you like this kind of rhythm music in the morning, and you will know that you will maybe prefer to have some jazz playing at the end of the afternoon, and maybe some more relaxing music at the end of the day. So all of this can be set up automatically, working with whatever content provider you may have, Spotify, Deezer, or others. All of that can be pre-programmed. So that will help you avoid a comment that I received yesterday, where someone told me, why don't you change your playlist? We've been listening to this every day for the last 10 days. So yes, sometimes I forget to change my playlist, and that can be automatic. Standalone audio. So these are speakers. Obviously for background music, the type of speakers that are typically used will be in ceiling, kind of disappearing from sites. However, sometimes people would prefer to have visible speakers, sculptural elements that will bring a smile on people's faces when they will see their speakers and actually participate in the music that would be playing. Obviously, those standing speakers, floor standing or wall mounted, can be part of an audiovisual context with a TV screen. For example, you might be willing to watch a movie at some point or only listening to music. And so this is an aesthetic or interior design question of how do you want those elements to come to play in the interior that you have created. They can be either visible or invisible and give that element of character to a space. Security has lots of different components. Here we start with an access control. An access control can have different elements. Nowadays, we don't like to touch things anymore, even though I hope it will come back very soon. You can have a badge, you can have a eye reading, you can have voice control, you can have keys, you can have all sorts of things that will unlock the door, the lock to allow you to open the door. CCTV cameras are quite smart nowadays. They can actually read the image. They can assess shapes, lights, quantity of light. If someone is walking past a certain area, that will reduce the quantity of light, or just movement. And that may then send a signal to that computer that will then trigger something. So for example, a project that we're installing right now, we can have a number plate reader. So when the car is approaching the garage, we know that this car has arrived, and that triggers the computer to turn the lights off, turn the AC off, start some music playlist. If we can identify a car, we can choose a specific playlist. Maybe some curtains will open, maybe a fountain will start. I don't know, anything to make the property welcome the person or the car with the people inside the car arriving to the property. One room that is highly technical and extremely beneficial to do all sorts of things as you may wish to be entertained is the home cinema. We spoke at length about this room last week, and this is a room where you have an audiovisual setup, where you have a screen that can show content, media, you have speakers, but more importantly, you have an acoustic element that will make that room acoustically perfect. And it can be for watching movies, but it could also be for listening to music, or it could be for reading a book, or it could be to meditate, a place where you can hide away and go into silence and think about certain topics that you want to process in your mind or heart. So this room is a very comfortable room with furniture that will fit the bill, either individual seats as we see on this picture, or sofas where you can cuddle up with peoples of your choice. And then you have the control element that will allow you to select the audiovisual experience that you may want in that given moment, if any, unless you want complete silence. Automation is about controls of different equipment that you have in any property. But the more important element is that these different components will adjust at the same time because you triggered what we call a scene. This image is an office. It's an office in D3. And the beauty is that the first person walking into that office and pressing that button will then trigger the office to get ready. Depending on the time of the day, the curtains may stay closed because the sun is right where it's not comfortable, way too glary. Or if it's at another time and the sun is maybe above the building, the curtains will open. Later, maybe they will trigger another scene, which is presentation. On the right side of this table, you don't see it on this image, but there's a TV screen. This table is used as a meeting table. And so when they triggered presentation, then the light above the table will turn off, the curtain will close, the lights of the cabinet will dim, and the TV will turn on. And that's the huge benefit from an automation system. It's not only about a smart way to turn things on and off. It's about different things happening at the same time to create whatever environment you need in that specific moment. So here we go. I press this button. This is the presentation going off. The TV shut down, the curtain reopened, and the light turns on again. All because of a single press. So this is convenience because I don't need to think about anything. I just press presentation off, and then I can go about my day again after the meeting. I don't have to press multiple buttons to reopen the curtains if I think of it, turn on the lights again, turn off the TV. It's all done in one go. Here we have different brands that we represent. Basalte Keypads from Belgium. Lutron is a control system. They have keypads and they have curtains and shades as well. Control 4 is an automation system that comes with a pre-programmed interface. Philips Dynalite is another automation system that comes with different keypads. Crestron is the broadest platform for automation. Whenever there's media, we will prefer or recommend to use a Crestron backend because it is the most reliable management system of media. KNX is often preferred by clients because they have had properties where they have a KNX system. It's an open-based platform. eKNX is keypads that will suit the KNX system. Black Nova is also keypads of a certain aesthetic. Steinway Lundov is a speaker brand, is a very high-end, high-performance digital speaker made in Denmark, together with the Steinway piano people that will do the cabinet, and Lindov electronics. Bowers and Wilkins is a speaker brand. Sonos is a music signal distribution system. And it's also speakers that will have that system built in. Dali is a Danish speaker brand that we have started working with exclusively. Sonans is a brand that we use for ceiling speakers. Bang & Olufsen is a very aesthetic designed speaker brand, obviously, and TV screens as well. Grandstream phone systems, Ubiquiti Wi-Fi. Saflock, I'm not too sure. 2N is access system, and acoustic is speakers again. We also have Artnovian, which is acoustics solutions to get the acoustics right in any given room. All right, so here is a wrap of my presentation. Do we have any questions? No questions at this stage. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. As always, you can find my contact details, and if you have any question that you want to ask me one-to-one, or call our team if you are more interested in the automation as a topic or the automation systems that we do. As you can see from this brand, we're not attached to a specific brand as such. We will recommend different systems that will fit the requirements of the client or the user eventually. A lot of things can be done. We have all the talent in-house, so we can design a technology system, install it, and commission it. All is done by Eigenhaus people, because this is the best way for us to ensure the highest standard possible. But also, if there needs to be some changes or adjustments, it's very easy for us to come in and make those adjustments. Thank you very much. I look forward to welcome you to the next webinar next week. In the meantime, I wish you a fabulous weekend. Thank you very much.